Okay, this is the chassis for a Bugaboo Buffalo, and what we're going to be talking about now is the front wheel mechanism here. We're going to disassemble it and talk about various sorts of problems that it can have, which parts might need to be swapped out, and how the different elements of the mechanism essentially works. So, we want to flip it up like this. Now this mechanism essentially controls three different things. You have this here. Locks the front wheel into a right position for going through deep snow or sand, difficult terrain, and so on. This here releases the wheel if you want to take it out. And this here is a plate that actually has two springs on the inside. And this is an ingenious idea. Not all brands use this. But what this essentially does is it means that you have pressure on the wheel, but not so much to keep it from swiveling properly. And some strollers that have swivel front wheels develop sort of a wobbly wheel problem, and this is essentially a fix against that they have designed. In order to disassemble this mechanism, you're going to need to remove two small screws here. I'm using a CRV T10 head. I assume that means 10 millimeters. It's star-shaped, six-pointed. And we're just going to start removing these screws. You want to hold the plate as you do so. As I said, there are springs on the inside, and they can jump straight out. See? So these springs are what give that little bit of extra pressure onto the plate. This sometimes breaks. I've seen it break on one side here, in which case you would remove this piece, but it's not the most common problem. Then there's this head here. The most common thing that I've seen breaking on this is this little plastic clip. This is the mechanism that holds the wheel onto the stroller itself. So there's a little lip here, yeah? When you push this in, it releases the axle, and when you let it go, this goes into a groove on the top of the axle and locks it in place. This piece sometimes breaks, in which case you would need to replace it. And it's just held on with a couple of small clips here. So you can just remove it like this, yes? There's also a spring here you don't want to lose. If the stroller gets old or has been subject to moisture and gets rusty, you also might need to remove the ball bearing, which is underneath, and replace it. Sometimes this part, the peg that sticks into the top element of the wheel and holds it in the lock position, might also break, in which case you would be removing this piece. You can see this is also held in with a spring and also has a little clip allowing you to pull this piece out. That's pretty much it. What you can always do when you have this taken apart is oil it. What I'm going to use today is a what's this called again? Silicone spray. That's right. Silicone spray you tend to use when there's a lot of plastic parts. You can always use WD-40 as well. I find WD-40 is more important when you're using it on metal parts. There are of course other brands for these things. And if you want to go all to town, you can use something like food industry grease or a car grease, which is thicker. This one is not very oily, so I would recommend the car grease in this application. But if you decide to use the food industry grease, mix it after you put it in with some WD-40 to give it the really kind of slippery, greasy feeling. But holds just with a little bit of silicone spray. That is actually what comes with the Bugaboo kit, at least the older one that came with the Chameleon. So I think that is what's standard when you get it out of the factory and so on. Reassembly, this piece goes in first, peg downwards. Then this piece with this part pointing backwards. Like that, it'll click into place. Yeah. And then we're going to reapply this. There's this groove here that allows this pin to pop out. And these just go right in the sides. And then you want to screw it in. And I think it's possible to actually screw this in too tight such that you don't get enough resistance from this plate. So we want it to hold in place, but still allow the spring to have just a little bit of give, yeah? Like this. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful. If it has, we ask that you subscribe to our channel. It really helps us to continue making videos in the future. Thank you.